Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. I'm joined by co-host Rachel Dahl of the Fallon Post.
And on the show today we have Sigal Chattah, who is the Republican candidate for Attorney General.
On an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Truck drivers are some of the hardest working people you'll meet, delivering over 70% of America's freight and 92% of Nevada's. When there's a natural disaster, they're delivering critical supplies to help those communities recover and rebuild. Every sector of the economy and our nation's military rely on truck drivers. So let's take a moment to say thank you. On the open road or city streets, our truck drivers are rolling to make our economy and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
Nevada Newsmakers Studio is located at the headquarters of the Nevada Trucking Association. Motion and purpose are a truck's greatest virtue.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
Nevada Newsmakers, we're pleased to welcome back to the program, co-hosting today, Rachel Dahl. She is the president and publisher of the Fallon Post, one of my favorite newspapers here in Nevada. And we're pleased to welcome to the program for the first time, Sigal Chattah. She is Republican candidate for Attorney General. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Shad. Hi, Rachel.
Hi there. Thanks for being here today. I think the most common question, I guess, in campaigning, tell us why you're running for office.
Well, I'm running for office because I see the trajectory of the state of Nevada, and it's very scary where the state is going with a progressive AG in office. And I think that we couldn't be more diametrically opposed as candidates. And I think that Nevada needs to get back on the right track from the perspective of the Attorney General's office.
Okay, and what's your biggest problem with the Attorney General?
Lack of transparency, I would say. I know that's a very general question or very general statement, but I think there's a serious lack of transparency in the administration of this office. I think that like I said, he's very progressive. I believe that he's running the Attorney General's office more like a public defender's office. And as a top cop of the state of Nevada, I have a serious problem with that.
He was on the program during the legislative session, and his office has said that he will be coming back on at the beginning of this year. So we look forward to having him come on, and obviously he'll be able to respond to some of your questions. I wanted to ask you about your law firm, because I was looking at your website, doing a little research on you last night, and you have a lot of links on there, and a lot of different areas of expertise that your law firm practices. How many attorneys are there in your law firm?
Right now, there's only myself. I have seriously scaled back the law firm since last year when I decided to run for office, and I anticipate that if I'm elected, that I will be selling my practice.
Right, which would make sense. I talked to a lot of attorneys, both Republicans and Democrats, before this interview, just to kind of get their thoughts on what they know about you and your practice. And one of them said, after looking at your website, that she's one of those attorneys who claims to practice everything, which almost means nothing well. Her website only mentions her, and she claims to do some international law, is an expert who does international cases in divorce and business, and yet she did a class action COVID case for churches and COVID vaccine preference for elderly, but only promotes herself. How do you respond to that?
Well, I've been practicing law for 20 years. At any given time, you'll see an influx of certain types of cases and, a deflux of certain types of cases. When I first started my practice, I did do a lot of international law. I speak 5 languages. So I was probably one of the only attorneys in the Israeli community that did a lot of types of international divorces and things like that. As of, like I said, I haven't done international law in a couple of years. If it comes in, then I would take it. But, the COVID cases are cases that started the past 2 years. So that hasn't been my focus. That has been my pro bono work. So I don't know about self-promotion. I've engaged in, 20 years of litigation is a long time. So that's how I would answer that.
Sigal, I'm really interested. I first heard about you during COVID over the religious litigation that you were involved with. And I was really impressed because it was sad to me that we couldn't go to church. Like, I could not go to my church. And I watched that and I was very impressed. I think COVID presented us with some opportunities that we've not had in ideas with basic freedoms. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess pro bono is important in situations like this, so I wouldn't minimize that. Talk about how important that is when we get to the idea of people just being able to go to church.
The places of worship case is today, in hindsight, I think it's going to be a landmark case for many years to come. I'm very proud of the Calvary Chapel case. I'm very proud of the fact that all my COVID litigation has been pro bono. And the reason that I took the places of worship case is because, the reality of it is that the right to free exercise and to practice our religion is something that is very American. And, especially coming from a Middle Eastern country where I see our neighboring countries, Christians are getting slaughtered. It's absolutely tragic what we see abroad, Northern Africa and so on and so forth. So to me, really, the right to free exercise is almost a staple of our constitutional rights. And when I decided to do the places of worship case, Calvary Chapel was a result of many other places of worship that did not want to step up. Nobody from the Roman Catholic Diocese, the Jewish communities, nobody wanted to take that chance and fight the governor on this mandate. And Calvary Chapel was really the one that stepped up. And so that's what I could say about the Calvary Chapel. And it takes a lot of courage to fight for your First Amendment right to free exercise.
One of the other things that you fought was filing a lawsuit against the way the governor was rolling out the COVID vaccines and concerns that the most vulnerable populations were not the first in line. What drew you to that case, and how did it proceed?
So the vaccines case really originated with my parents' inability to get vaccinated. My parents were at that age where they weren't over the age of 75, and their group, their friends, just were really scared to go out in public because at that time, there was still a fear of. We know that we're in a vulnerable group and in a vulnerable segment of the population. And really it was almost what birthed it was. I was having breakfast with my parents and, and my father said to me, I don't understand why I can't get vaccinated. I'm over the age of 65 and regardless of whether they have heart conditions or other comorbidities, this was a problem for that age group. So really the inspiration was my parents and their age group. And I realized that, wait a minute, we not only is this age group a vulnerable age group, but when I looked a little deeper into what was happening, we were hearing this narrative that the former administration wasn't sending vaccines to Nevada, and that's why there was such a slow rollout. When I looked into it, I saw that, in fact, Nevada was sitting on 100,000 vaccines. So I started questioning, why is the rollout so slow? And why is this segment of the population being neglected? And when I dug deeper, I realized that it was simply a bad prioritization. And it was, regardless of whether this was a malicious intent to where our vulnerable population is put at risk or not, I decided to file the lawsuit to drop the age from 75 to 65 and to increase the vaccine rollout. By the time we had gotten to the preliminary injunction hearing, we saw the rollout go from about 2,000 vaccines a day to between 15 and 22,000 vaccines a day. And we saw that the age got dropped from 75 to 65. So I'm very proud of that. This is a nonpartisan action. You know, all these COVID actions are nonpartisan actions. These are actions that are taken in a very pragmatic sense.
I think we could probably talk about COVID. I have about 4 other questions about COVID, but we should give you an opportunity to talk about other things. As Attorney General, talk about some of the other issues you see that are very important to the state. Water comes to mind, of course, but what else do you have in mind while you're looking at that seat?
You know, one of the biggest things that we have seen as a result of COVID is that parents for the first time are actually seeing what their children's curriculum looks like. You know, predating COVID, children were going to school, and what the parents would do is they would come, if they had the opportunity, parents would see a certain level of curriculum with helping with homework. We know that Common Core, a lot of parents oppose that. But one of the silver linings that I think had occurred during the COVID shutdowns is it really allowed parents to look at their children's curriculum on a granular scale. And one of the biggest things that I would promote is curriculum transparency legislation. The outcry from parents on children's curriculum, I think, really combusted after they saw what these curriculums were. So I'm a big proponent of enacting curriculum transparency. I believe that parents should have the right to know what the curriculum that is presented in Nevada school districts includes. That includes lesson plans, that includes books, that includes allowing them to participate in the curriculum selection process. So that's one thing. Another thing is, you know, the Office of the Attorney General, like I said earlier, I think it's being run like a public defender's office. I think that's the danger in that lies in the fact that as the top prosecutor of the state, it stifles other counties' prosecutors from engaging in real prosecutorial, you know, indictments, convictions. We don't want to see Nevada go down the route like New York and California, where we see a trend of decriminalization of certain misdemeanors. That is a public safety issue. I think that our prosecutors need to be empowered to keep our streets safe and to engage in their jobs, and that is prosecuting criminals.
All right, let's take another break here because we got to pay for this show. We'll be right back on Nevada Newsmakers with Sigal Chattah after this time out.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
Can't do it. Stupid, like my mom.
We can't do anything at Mommy's because you won't pay child support.
Dad said you cheated, and he's not even sure he's my dad.
Mommy said you left both of us. so she isn't gonna let me see you. I look just like my father.
I'm divorce attorney Marilyn York, and I may represent men, but hate has no gender, only casualties. Please, stop sacrificing your children in your war against your ex.
Safety. We all think about it. You think about it when he buckles in, when you check your mirrors and put away your phone. RTC thinks about safety too. In fact, we create it. Center turn lanes mean fewer blind spots. Bike lanes keep cyclists and you safe. Roundabouts reduce injury collisions, and all these crosswalks are designed to keep families like yours safe. Safety is your priority, and it's ours too. Every day, in everything we do.
The signs and symptoms of cataracts can start out small with subtle changes in your vision. So don't wait. Be proactive and take your vision into your own hands. If you're experiencing the onset of cataracts or just have questions, contact your eye care professional or call Eye Care Associates of Nevada today. Dr. Hiss has years of experience specializing in the surgical correction of eye disorders and has completed over 84,000 vision correcting procedures. At Eye Care Associates of Nevada, we'll change the way you look at the world.
Calamity. It lurks around every corner. Or not. That's why UMC Quick Care is around every corner, with locations around the valley. UMC Quick Care, for all your small calamities.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, Rachel Dahl and I continue our conversation with Sigal Chattah. She's the Republican candidate for Attorney General.
Sigal, it's a COVID question, but really it's a basic principle question. You did the lawsuit over vaccines, and reading through your material, if someone didn't want to get the vaccine, how does that look for you, especially as Attorney General and that top spot in the state for that principle that someone wants to take to make that decision for themselves?
You know, I am an opponent of vaccine mandates and mask mandates. I think at this juncture, there simply isn't sufficient research to see what the residual effect of these vaccines are. I do believe that every person should have the right to choose. Like the vaccines case, that wasn't a case about mandates. That was a case about allowing a vulnerable population to have access to medicine. So I'm absolutely opposed to vaccine mandates. As Attorney General, I will continue to oppose vaccine mandates. I tend to believe that if this administration is replaced by the Republican administration and the Republican slate, that mandates will end.
Okay, let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking, are you vaccinated yourself?
I am.
Okay, so you're not against vaccines, you just want to allow people to make the choice. No. Okay.
I am vaccinated, and like I said, I mean, look, when I talk about residual effect of the vaccine, right now this vaccine has only been studied on the market for 2 years, okay? I'm not at an age where my fertility or whether it affects my fertility is going to be an issue. Do I have a concern about vaccinating my kids? Absolutely. Like I said, the science simply isn't there to allow us to know what the residual effects are. So as a 47-year-old woman, I had no problem getting vaccinated.
Okay, and I just want to point out, as I have done on the program several times, that you're an attorney, not a doctor. I'm a talk show host, not a doctor. So let's not debate the medical analysis here, but just the attitude, and that's fine, and you have every right to do that. Let me ask you, with Roe versus Wade being a hot topic, are you pro or anti-abortion?
I believe in the sanctity of life, okay? I think that as an Attorney General candidate, my opinion on abortion has nothing to do with the office that I'm seeking. And I want to clarify something, because I think this is a false narrative that is used by many on the left here in the state of Nevada, many candidates, and many people in office. What we need to remember is ballot question 7 in 1990 really embedded a woman's right to choose in the Constitution. So not I, not Aaron Ford, not Steve Sisolak, not Catherine Masto, no government official will ever be able to modify that without the consent of the people. So my opinions, whether they are religious or non-religious opinions on the woman's right to choose, is irrelevant. I think what we need to remember is ballot question 7 allowed that decision to be determined by the people, and the only way to modify that is by the people. So.
All right, so let's move on to another quick question here before we take another break. The governor's state of emergency, has it gone on too long?
I think so. I don't think 2 years can qualify as an emergency. I don't believe that we are in a state of emergency. I think that the state of emergency has been declared, is going on for 2 years. And what other emergency in the state of Nevada history has gone on for 2 years?
If you were Attorney General and Steve Sisolak is reelected as governor, what would you do in that position regarding the state of emergency?
I would demand that the state of emergency be terminated.
And you could do that through force of law?
Through force of law, the Attorney General's office can do that.
All right, let's take another break. We'll be right back talking to potentially a future Attorney General of the state of Nevada after this timeout. I'm here at the Carson Valley Inn in Minden with Joey Whitaker, and you've got a lot of convention space and meeting breakout space for people. Tell us about what's available.
Well, we can handle a group up to about 250, and anywhere as small as 10 or 15. So it really depends on what you're looking for, what the customer's looking for. We're open to anything. It's a beautiful drive, and if you live in South Reno, it's probably about 30-35 minutes, so it's real easy to get to. It's not a long way to get away to the Carson Valley Inn.
Everyone is talking about opioids, but they're not the only drugs that can be harmful if taken in large quantities or not as prescribed. You also need to be aware of side effects from anxiety drugs, muscle relaxants, sleep aids, and stimulants. Mixing prescription drugs with other drugs or alcohol can be dangerous. If you take Ambien with a glass of wine, it may be enough to stop you from breathing. Prescribed drugs can be just as dangerous as illegal drugs. Take medications only as directed.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today, we fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com.
Dimitri Prine here for Design Outdoor. Come visit Design Outdoor's store and backyard to see our wide selection of fire pits, barbecues, and pizza ovens, natural stone water features and fountains, and frost-proof pottery. Our store and backyard are located at 11600 South Virginia, just north of DeMonte Ranch Parkway. Visit designoutdoor.com or call us at 851-9499.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, Rachel Dahl and I continue our conversation with Sigal Chattah. She is the Republican candidate for Attorney General.
Sigal, I was looking at the voter registration numbers, and it's very heavy Democrat registration. Talk about your plan for your campaign. Will you come up north so folks can meet you?
Yes, Rachel, I've been up north. I've been traveling up north for the past year, and I love Northern Nevada. It's a lot of fun. I got to fall in love with the state and everything that the North has to offer. So been going there, and we'll be coming there a lot in the next few weeks as well.
Have you been out in rural Nevada?
Yes. I'm having so much fun with the rurals. Look, I'm a city girl. Growing up in Israel, I grew up in the city. I have always been a city girl, and really, when I started traveling to the rurals is really when I started falling in love with Northern Nevada. I love the small town feeling, and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Looking again at your website, you posted stories about you defending the Rizzolo family in various cases involving Henry Kirk. And are you concerned that even though everybody deserves a right to be defended, And as Oscar Goodman would say, there's no problem with that. But are you concerned that that may become an issue during this campaign?
Absolutely not. I think being involved in certain cases, whether it was Rick Rislow or Leon Benzer and Silver Lining Construction and the HOA litigation over a decade ago, I think that actually allows me to understand not only how criminal defense works, but understanding the Constitution and the protections of the Constitution that are afforded to all people that go through the criminal justice system. And, you know, I will never hide away from the people that I've represented, never. I take that with just as much pride as COVID cases. So I will never hide away from that.
Okay, quick question, quick answer, please. How much money do you think it's going to take to run your campaign?
You know, anywhere between 2 and 3 million, I believe. Those are the figures, and I have to defer to the experts on that. Okay, and you think you have the ability to raise that kind of money? I think so. I think we're going to see a lot of independent expenditures that are a result of the chokehold that this administration has on high donors that simply are scared to show what is being contributed to Republican candidates. All right, and that's where we got to leave it. Please come back, and are you willing to debate the Attorney General if you become the nominee? Absolutely. All right. Pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you so much for doing this, and we'll be right back.
Brian Culpa Photography was born in the rolling hills of Massachusetts, and now he can help you experience the stunning beauty of Nevada in a whole new way through the power of flight. Flying has always been a passion for Brian, and at Brian Culpa Photography, he can make your imagination soar. Brian has the creative mind and tools to tell your unique story. Experience the bird's eye view at brianculpaphotography.com.
Hi, my name's Marilyn Miner, and I'm sure you'd agree that Nevada's a very special place to live. I was born here, and my husband and I have raised our family here. I feel it's a privilege to live and work in the Truckee Meadows. I especially enjoy helping my clients reach their real estate goals. Sometimes the smallest details provide the greatest satisfaction. I'd be complimented to talk to you about your next move.
Call Marilyn Miner at Dixon Realty, 742-1280, or log on to marilynminer.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's Development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Pro Group Management specializes in providing industries with the necessary components to satisfy and exceed workers' comp requirements. Every business has unique needs and specific regulations. Pro Group Management stays ahead of the curve, providing up-to-date services to keep your industry in top form. Discover how we simplify your tasks, improve efficiency, and reduce expense to keep you moving in a positive direction. Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers.
We'll see you on the next broadcast.